You know that feeling when you're just like on a freight train towards something you know isn't good for you?
Yeah, yeah.
That magnetic, unstoppable pull. I'm talking about doom scrolling at, I don't know, 11:30 at night when you have a huge meeting tomorrow.
Or grabbing that third slice of pizza when you were totally full after the second one.
Yes. Or on the flip side, you have that equal and opposite reaction of running away from the things that feel hard.
Like the gym. Or that one email you know you have to write. It's this universal modern struggle, isn't it? We run to the easy dopamine hit and we flee from anything that feels like discomfort.
Right. And what's so frustrating is that we know better. We know the sleep is more important than the TikTok video, but we watch it anyway.
Exactly. It's not because we're dumb. It's because our brains are being driven by something powerful.
Right. So for this deep dive, that's what we're unpacking. We're looking at a conversation between Mel Robbins and Dr. Anna Lemke.
And Dr. Lemke is, she's a serious heavyweight in this field. She's the medical director of addiction medicine at Stanford, author of the bestseller Dopamine Nation.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack the neuroscience of why we're all, a little bit addicted these days.
And how our brain's internal pleasure-pain balance has been completely hijacked.
And most importantly, walk through the actual protocol she lays out to kind of reset your motivation.
It all starts with a huge misunderstanding of what dopamine even is. I think we all hear dopamine and we think pleasure molecule.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. It's the reward. You do a good job, you get a cookie, you get a hit of dopamine.
But that's not quite it. Dr. Lemke is really clear that it's more about reinforcement. It's not just the feeling of pleasure. It's the signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important for survival. Do this again.
So it's the engine, not the destination.
Precisely. It's the drive. She calls us the ultimate seekers. Dopamine is what made our ancestors hunt and gather and explore. Without it, we'd have just sat under a tree and, starved.
But that system was built for a world of scarcity where finding a berry bush was like a huge deal.
Exactly. And we are not in a world of scarcity anymore. We are living in a giant candy store.
Right.
And to really understand why all this abundance is short-circuiting us, we have to talk about the main metaphor she uses. It's honestly the best visualization I've ever heard for this stuff.
The seesaw.
The seesaw. Imagine inside your brain, in the reward pathway, there's a teeter-totter. And when you're just feeling content, neutral, that beam is level with the ground, that's homeostasis.
Okay, so let's walk through this. I do something pleasurable. I eat a potato chip or I get a like on an Instagram post. What happens?
The seesaw immediately tips to one side. We'll call it the pleasure side. That tip, that's your little dopamine release. You feel good. But, and this is the absolute rule of the brain, it wants to get back to level. It hates being tipped for too long.
So it has to counterbalance itself. It can't just stay in pleasure mode forever.
Nope, and it works hard to fix it. And the way she describes this is brilliant. She calls them neuroadaptation gremlins.
The gremlins. I love that. It makes it so easy to picture.
It really does. So you eat the chip, the seesaw tips to pleasure, and your brain sends out these tiny gremlins, and they hop on the pain side of the seesaw to weigh it back down.
They're the counterweight. The brain's little cleanup crew saying, okay, fun's over, back to normal.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. This explains hangovers, cravings, that come down feeling. The gremlins. They don't just jump off the second it's level, they hang out for a while.
They're slow to leave.
Very slow. And they bring friends, so they keep weighing down the pain side until the seesaw tips all the way over into the opposite direction, into pain.
Wow. So that's why after a high, you always get a low.
That's it. It's why after you binge watch a whole season, you feel kind of empty and anxious. You're literally paying for the pleasure you just had. The gremlins are still sitting on the pain side of your brain.
Okay, so what happens if you just keep going? You keep eating the chips, you keep scrolling day after day.
That's the tolerance trap. The gremlins don't leave, they start working out. Dr. Lemke calls them Arnold Schwarzenegger gremlins.
They get stronger.
They get huge. They set up a permanent campsite on the pain side of your seesaw. So now that massive weight is there 24/7.
Which means your baseline, your starting point, is no longer level. It's tilted toward pain.
You've got it. You have reset your hedonic set point. You are now living in a chronic dopamine deficit state. And this part is terrifying. You're not using your phone or your food to feel good anymore. You're using it just to get the gremlins to ease up for a second so you can feel normal.
It's a really heavy thought. That by constantly chasing easy pleasure, we are basically engineering our own anxiety and depression.
That's what the neuroscience shows. When you're not on your drug, whatever it is, those gremlins are just sitting there making you feel irritable, anxious, and down. You think, oh, I'm just an anxious person, but maybe you just have a gremlin problem.
And we should be clear, when we say drug, Dr. Lenke isn't just talking about, heroin or alcohol.
Not at all. She argues we've drogified everything. Food, news, shopping, social media, even human connection.
Her personal story about this was, it was shocking. Here's the top addiction expert at Stanford, and she admits she got addicted to vampire romance novels.
It's so humanizing, right? It started with Twilight.
Which seems pretty harmless.
Totally. She read it, loved the escape, got that nice little dopamine hit. But then, just like the seesaw would predict, the first book wasn't enough. The gremlins adapted.
So she needed something stronger.
She did. She moved on to more graphic stuff, specialized erotica, things she never imagined she'd read. She needed a higher potency to get the same feeling.
And the behavior that followed, that's what got me. She was reading between patient appointments, she was on vacation with her family, and stayed in the hotel room to read.
That's the grip, isn't it? When you start choosing the substance over your actual life, it shows that even an expert can fall into that vortex of compulsive overconsumption. Nobody's immune.
And it really brings us to the most common drug of all, the smartphone.
Right. And she breaks down why it's so addictive into 3 key factors: access, potency, and novelty.
Access is obvious. It's always in our pocket.
Potency is about the algorithms. They learn exactly what you like and feed you a perfect, curated stream of it. It's stronger than anything you'd find in nature.
But that third one, novelty or mystery, that feels like the real killer.
It is. It's what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. You don't know what the next swipe will bring. Is it a funny video, a stressful news alert, a text from someone you like? That gamble, that uncertainty.
It spikes the dopamine.
More than the reward itself, the anticipation is the real drug.
She also mentioned that it's not just about escape, it can be about control.
Yes, the world feels chaotic, right? You can't control the news or your boss, but you can retreat into your phone, this little world where you have total agency. You control the swipe. It's a way to soothe the anxiety of being out of control.
Speaking of anxiety, the example of drogifying human connection really hit me.
The whole Find My iPhone discussion.
Yes. She talked about stalking her kids' locations on the app. Mel Robbins talked about texting friends the second she feels a tough emotion.
It's a subtle addiction called reassurance seeking. You feel a little pang of anxiety, the gremlins on the pain side, and instead of sitting with it and learning to self-soothe,
You reach for the phone, you send the text, you check the location.
boom, instant dopamine hit. The seesaw levels out. But you've just robbed yourself of a chance to build resilience. You're using another person or an app as a drug.
And we should quickly touch on ADHD here, because for those folks, it's a steeper climb.
It really is. Dr. Lemke noted that people with ADHD tend to have lower baseline dopamine. Their reward pathway is just naturally understimulated.
So they're starting with a disadvantage.
A huge one. They're hungrier for that dopamine spike just to feel normal, which makes them more vulnerable to all of this. Boredom is physically more uncomfortable for them.
Okay, so we've got the seesaw, we've got the gremlins camping out, we've got the drugified world. How do we fix this? What's the protocol?
The solution is simple, but, and she is very clear about this, it is not easy. It's the dopamine detox, a period of abstinence.
You have to go cold turkey.
For a specific amount of time, and this is where everyone gets it wrong. She says you have to commit to 30 days, 4 weeks.
Why so long? Why not just a weekend?
Because the gremlins won't leave that fast. In fact, the first 2 weeks are what she calls the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. Okay, what happens there?
You stop the behavior, you put the phone away, so you're not hitting the pleasure side anymore. But the Arnold Schwarzenegger gremlins are still camped out on the pain side.
So you actually feel worse when you start.
Much worse. You feel anxious, irritable, you have cravings. It's withdrawal. And this is the exact point where most people give up. They think, see, I feel terrible without social media, so it must have been helping me.
That's such a dangerous misread of the situation.
It is. You're not feeling bad because you lack the app. You're feeling the weight of the gremlins that haven't packed their bags yet. You're paying off the debt.
But if you can just push through those 2 weeks.
If you can make it to weeks 3 and 4, the gremlins finally get the message. They hop off. The seesaw resets to level. Homeostasis is restored.
And the result isn't just that you're less addicted. It's that your ability to enjoy normal things comes back.
That's the whole point. You can enjoy a sunset without needing to post a picture of it. You can find satisfaction in doing focused work. The static in your head just quiets down.
But willpower is not going to get you through those first 2 weeks. She talks a lot about self-binding.
Yeah, because you can't trust your future self. And the moment you get a craving, your logical brain just goes offline. The gremlins are driving. You have to create physical barriers beforehand.
Like Ulysses tying himself to the mast.
Exactly. Delete the apps, leave the phone in another room when you sleep, freeze your credit card in a block of ice if you overspend. You have to add friction back into your life.
Okay, so this is where it gets really mind-bending. We've talked about stopping pleasure. But she says we can actually hack the system by intentionally using pain.
This is the big aha moment. It's called hormetic stress. If pressing on the pleasure side leads to pain, then pressing on the pain side
should lead to pleasure. So if I do something hard, like take an ice bath or have a difficult conversation I've been avoiding, my brain rewards me.
Yes. Your body responds to that dose of stress by upregulating its own feel-good chemicals. Dopamine, serotonin, the good stuff. She calls it getting your dopamine by paying for it up front.
I love that. Instead of taking out a high-interest loan, you're making a smart investment.
And the quality is totally different. It's a sustained, healthy release that lasts for hours. It doesn't fry your system like the cheap hits from a screen.
This brings us to boredom. Boredom in this framework is basically a form of pain we're all terrified of.
We treat it like an emergency. The second there's a 2-second gap, we reach for the phone to sedate ourselves. But she calls boredom the midwife of invention.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
When you allow yourself to be bored, your brain is forced to look inward. It has to make new connections. It has to ask the big questions. If you never let that happen, you're just a machine reacting to whatever's on the screen.
So on a practical level, what does this look like? They talked about a morning protocol.
It starts the night before. You plan what you're going to do when you wake up so you don't have to use willpower.
And then the golden rule, do not touch the phone.
Absolutely crucial. You have to delay that first cheap dopamine hit. If you flood your brain with notifications at 7 a.m., you've already tipped the seesaw. You're starting your day in a hole. Your motivation for anything hard is just gone.
Instead, you move your body, get some sunlight.
Yeah.
You just endure the pain of existing without a distraction for a little while.
Yeah. Make your bed. Brush your teeth. Let your brain wake up on its own terms. It sounds so small, but it sets the entire trajectory for your day.
It's funny. We think of motivation as this thing we have to wait for, like a lightning strike.
But she's saying motivation isn't an emotion, it's a biological result of a balanced system. If you're unmotivated, it's not a character flaw. It's probably a gremlin problem.
Okay, so let's just recap the whole journey here. We are scarcity-brained creatures living in a world of overwhelming abundance.
We are seekers, trapped in a candy store.
The seesaw metaphor explains perfectly why all the easy, feel-good stuff leads to long-term pain and kills our drive. It's the gremlins.
But the hopeful message is that our brains are resilient. A 30-day reset, as hard as it is, can bring you back to baseline. You can get your joy back.
And the secret weapon is to lean into discomfort, to pay for your dopamine up front.
It completely reframes it. You're not depriving yourself of fun. You're investing in your brain's capacity for real happiness.
So here's a final thought to take with you. We tend to think of freedom as the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want, to consume endlessly.
But maybe in a world that is designed from the ground up to keep you sedated and distracted, the ultimate act of rebellion is choosing to be bored.
Maybe the only path to real freedom is choosing to be uncomfortable, on purpose.
It really makes you ask the question, are you just consuming your life or are you actually showing up for it?
Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.